Hello, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining us in this wonderful webinar. We're going to be discussing entrepreneurship, sustainability, and artificial intelligence with Tee Ganbold. This is a kickoff to the Women in AI Forum, a virtual conference dedicated to providing a platform for women who are making their mark in the field of artificial intelligence through various contributions. I'd like to give a very special thanks to my mom, not for being in technology, but for giving me the gift of life. And I'd also like to thank Mary Berg for proposing the idea of coordinating this event with a lot of wonderful women in the field. With that being said, I'd love to give a brief introduction to our special guest, Tee Ganbold, and she's the current acting Chief Executive Officer. She has a bachelor's degree in international relations, which has been uh, put to very good use, as we'll come to find in this webinar. And she's worked in a number of different domains and functions within the organization, such as finance, investments, operations, engineering, and sales. With all that being said, I'd love for T to give us a little bit of her background and experience.
Thank you so much, Joaquin, for having me. It is such a pleasure. Brand. So my name is Tee Ganbold. I'm the founder and CEO of Improvability AI. We use generative AI to automate report writing. The reason why we're doing that is because we're spending so much time as a human society writing reports and not getting things done. So we automate in a very transparent way for companies to automate their report writing so they can get on with fixing real problems. And we've initially templatized all sustainability reports. And we're currently getting customers who we're helping templatize their internal reporting.
Lovely. I'd love to hear. I Prior to us beginning the webinar, you gave me a very special story, which I think would color this conversation a bit more clearly from what you've encountered in your early career and education.
Yeah, so Joaquin, I shared the story with you because it's very much a human story. I grew up as a tomboy. I loved planes. I wanted to be a fighter jet pilot since the age of 13. I did Air Cadets, which is the younger version of the Royal Air Force, from the age of 13 to 18. And the only thing I could think about is flying. And I used to go flying on the weekends to an airfield where I used to fly non-engine aircrafts called a glider. And I learned everything from aerodynamics to flying a plane, how to get it in the sky. But just before I went to university, where I was going to study aeronautical engineering, I got this question or I was having a discussion with my mentor, and I asked her, do you think this is the right degree for me? And she said to me, T, if you study aeronautical engineering, you're not going to get married. You're too much of a tomboy. So my message to every girl, woman in AI is to never, ever stop believing in your passion, what you want to do, and I did not pursue an aeronautical engineering degree because I was so terrified, coming from a traditional Asian background, that I would never get married because I was so much of a tomboy. So my message to the community is, let's step up. In fact, you can be very feminine, lead a company, you can build incredible tools for an amazing customer base, and to have confidence in that. That is my message to the girls and women in AI, because there are so many that we are 50% of the global population. We are the users of the platform. We are very sticky product users, but we need to design AI platforms. We need to make sure we're designing the next phase of our human evolution.
Wonderfully said. Yeah, I just I lament girls and women who abstain from pursuing hard sciences or things that are impressive in their own regard for fear that it may impact their social standings. It's a tragedy, you know, and that goes for anybody really who listens to other people when they should be chasing their dreams and passions. Eventually you'll find somebody that likes the things that you like, and they'll be so much better for you. So I know I'd love to be invited to your future wedding, T. So keep me in mind for that as well. Um, so with that, let's talk a little bit about your early career. You mentioned to me that your intent was to surround yourself with the smartest people that can give you a better idea of how to work within the world.
Yeah, so in my early, firstly, I wrote my thesis on alternative energy, how the US is transitioning towards alternative energy. So that's been my passion. Sustainability has been my passion since I was a student. I worked in a commodities investment bank because I wanted to learn about what makes up our global economy. So oil services, shipping, mining, food, everything that we use today, the fundamental commodities. And apologies for that. So I learned commodities in order to understand the foundations of our global economy. It's very much pushing alternative energy. In my first job, when the oil price crashed, it was actually a great pivotal moment because I met one of the board directors of Nestle, and she was the head of UNICEF. She's on the board of Nestle now, overseeing sustainability. And she said to me, T, data is everything. Focus on how data is gathered, how is it used, how do you analyze it, how do you optimize supply chain. And that has been my passion, and that's been my focus throughout my 20s. So I would say while I had one mentor who completely did not think I should go into engineering, I had met one of the most powerful women on this planet. She is so exceptional, who completely changed my perspective. Because in Asia, women are expected to be very feminine, whereas when I met Anne Benham of Nestle, I said, this is who I want to be like. I do not. So again, it is so important who you come across in society, and it is so important that we have the right female role models, given that our topic today is women in AI.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. So she kind of pointed you in the right direction, and clearly you followed her directions. You're where you are now because of that advice. So what were you keen on doing to align yourself with that roadmap of getting involved in data and AI?
So firstly, I had to learn what she meant. So a little bit, I don't know if you're into libertarian philosophy, but Ayn Rand wrote a book called Fountainhead, and really there's an architect in there, and he goes and learns from the best designers in the world, and afterwards he quits. And then the reason for that is sometimes you have to learn from the best to redesign the future. Because if you don't know if you don't learn from the best, then how do you know how to redesign something that does not exist? So that's really what I did in my early 20s. I worked at some amazing data analytics companies with those who are building infrastructure for the internet, with a co-founder of Ethereum. And then at 26, I built my first, together with an amazing group of data scientists, a knowledge graph company, a supply chain knowledge graph business, where we were building AI algorithms to optimize the supply chain. Again, my passion, to really make sure that we are using the right amount of energy, efficient amount of energy to get from place to place, our trucks from place to place, for manufacturing hubs to use machine learning to realize when they need lights to be on, when they don't need to be on, and many other pieces. So my first company was focused on supply chain optimization using AI. And the knowledge graph, you need to get a knowledge graph, you need a lot of different data sets.
Yeah, no, I love that you've been keen on from obsessing over being a pilot and being in aeronautical engineering, and learning everything to do with aerodynamics and weather patterns and the different engines on these planes, to switching your focus into sustainability and being very bully on finding ways on how you can get involved, contribute to, learn from the space of sustainability. Now, what you described, creating a knowledge graph and graph algorithms to analyze supply chains, to create efficiencies for food supply chains specifically, right? That is not a small feat to do. As you said, it's having to deal with the multiple actors. Supply chains are made up of so many different actors. There are so many different kinds of layers of information, from agriculture to logistics to the financing and transactions that occur between those actors. I cannot even begin to imagine the levels of knowledge that you derived from that company. But what once you learned about data and AI and decided to go into that realm, what were some other things that you found as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I was 26 for that venture called Clear AI, and I personally learned that it's so much better when you're an entrepreneur to build one product and really make sure that's scalable. The issue with a knowledge graph centered business is that you're building lots of tools together, lots of data and optimization tools. This time round, we're very focused. So at Improvability, we are focused on one thing only, and we saw a huge problem, which is there's so many regulations there's about 2,900 regulations, sustainability and ESG globally. Every company, large company, is having to report now, and soon every small company, because the large companies need to report, therefore the small companies need to report. So again, our supply chains are very interconnected, and what is very difficult at the moment and what is very costly at the moment is the reporting piece. So it takes up the majority of, let's say, a chief sustainability officer and their teams takes up most of their time, about 60%, if not more. So if we can help them optimize that function, that part of their job, which is gathering the data, writing the report, generative AI is perfect for. We have dramatically increased the efficiency of a team within a large organization. so they can focus on actually solving the problems in their company. So a large trucking company, publicly trading company, this chief sustainability officer is spending all his time reading reports, writing reports, and even before that, gathering data. And when it comes to implementation, so that the trucks don't emit certain emissions, that is so difficult for him to go and do, because he's spending all his time reporting. So that's the problem we're very, very focused on. And as an entrepreneur, it is much better to focus on one specific piece you're focused on solving, and then you can expand. Trying to do too many things is something I would highly recommend not doing.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's a matter of entrepreneurship that you have to be able to connect the dots across multiple different areas. You were involved in investment, doing due diligence to make sure companies were worth being involved with, or being funded. You were doing sales, so you had a clear idea of what it would take to be able to sell to these institutions, or at least package a solution so that it solved a real problem that they would be willing to pay for, especially in such a regulated area such as regulatory compliance and finance. Um, I really would like to paint a broader perspective that if it wasn't because of all these prerequisite experiences that you subjected yourself to early in your career, maybe some of these things would not have been tangible. Can you tell a little bit about, all these different disciplines and skill sets that you picked up that has helped shape the view of building something new?
Firstly, I do think it's important to, when you're building a business, you have to have a grasp of financial services and capital markets. You have to understand how to structure a deal. My early experience in investment banking really helped me to do that. So Jeff Bezos, a number of amazing entrepreneurs out there, they started off in finance. You have to understand how to structure a deal, how to create a deal. And normally a deal has to be equitable. There has to be a win-win situation for a deal to go ahead. I think finance is a perfect way for someone to acquire those skills, which is to get a deal done. To get a deal done, you have to know what is a good price, what can everyone agree on in the market, and how do you execute in that deal. So that is something I've highly, and I'm so grateful for that experience. And I would say finance has been one of the great learnings. My own interest in commodities is very important, because you have to know what sort of energy sources there are, what are the alternatives, where is the emergence of alternatives. Normally, energy is tied to regulation because it's a national security strategy to diversify. So the US's diversification from oil was so that the US is independent from influence from suppliers, let's say OPEC. It is important to diversify in order to be strong in geopolitics. So really a fundamental understanding in geopolitics and understanding what is motivating a trend. So the US's transition towards the electrification, why is that? It's because China has created one of the largest markets in the battery industry, in the solar industry, the lowest cost production of it. And it is so important to understand why the competition exists and what is driving the legislation and the demand for change for businesses.
I love that you're painting a very clear narrative as to the context, the environment that you're navigating through. I appreciate you saying what you said about, coming from finance, building a very good primer for you to be able to go into entrepreneurship because you're able to understand numbers and how to structure deals and narrate and communicate the value proposition of a new product or service. Sales is always a prerequisite in order to get into entrepreneurship because without sales, you have no money, and without money, it's a hobby, right? Um, so I think you're painting on a few really valuable attributes of a successful entrepreneur. The finance background really supports it. Being a deeply involved and interested in the developments of the domain. So you're talking geopolitics, you're talking resource management, you're talking about national resource strategies to diversify and be independent. That shows how much attention and time you've cultivated to really become an expert in your field. Um, do you have any advice for people that are coming in from a more technical background, like engineers and scientists that have been developing systems, but not necessarily understand those aspects that you spoke about from the beginning?
Yeah, I've always had a technical co-founder. One thing I've noticed about technical co-founders is that they really understand how to go deep in a subject matter. And it is, you do need that skill on your, I would say, in a founding team. You need someone who's able to think and go and understand the interconnections. But you also need a co-founder who is able to go deep because they are able to problem solve at such a very technical problem. And if it wasn't for my co-founder Daniel Ellison, who I've known for about 7 years, we would never be here. That is, we are so complementary to one another. Our board member was on the board of Spotify. Siri invested in DeepMind at Horizon Ventures. Again, very much understands how amazing tech companies can be built. But every time, the pattern is, it's not the technology. What people forget, and I met the former head of the SRI, so it's the Stanford Research Institute, and he said, T, what a lot of entrepreneurs don't understand is that it's the problem, it is how and the solution, and it is the interface, it's the UI, it's how accessible is it to that audience or to your audience. So if you're building something, really have to be empathetic. You have to understand what design is going to work. What is, Steve Jobs, he went to a calligraphy seminars. That's why he built one of the most powerful companies on the planet. The product was so beautiful because he understood calligraphy. So my recommendation to any technical founder is to have empathy. We are humans at the end of the day as users. So really understanding how will a human connect with us? The latest, ChatGPT that just came out, the release. What's interesting is that it's had multiple different reactions. Men love the voice. It sounds a bit like Scarlett Johansson. Women apparently haven't reacted so well. So because it's not the voice that they want to hear. So it's really interesting how users might be impacted because of voice, tone, look and feel. Apple got it right because it's so universal. It's an apple that there's so many connotations to life and Garden of Eden and so many things. It was probably the shrooms that helped him think that through, but I do think having empathy and being human, and not everyone's good at every skill, and partnering up with someone who has all the skills you don't have. That's how you build a team. So partner up, have human empathy, and think about your users. At the end of the day, your customers are the most important. That is what will drive your business. If your customers are happy, you're going to have a good business.
I really enjoy. I just enjoy hearing you talk. It's very refreshing that you are humble and appreciative of the team that you cultivate, the team you work with. I think you're saying some very special things, including if you don't have the skill set, you partner with somebody, but not just anybody. You said you knew this person 7 years. So you don't just jump into bed and get married with the first person that says, I do, or I want to. You want to really vet the character, the metal, the materials of the person that you are going to be involved with. And I really enjoy that you said that you are humble enough to understand that you don't know everything and you need the counsel. You need advisors. You need a board that gives you and validates ideas and directions because they've been there. So you have coverage from the high, people that have already gone through the journey, and you have coverage alongside you to tackle the different intricate details where you focus in running the business, running and expanding and satisfying new customers, building new accounts, expanding the operations. Um, it's such a hairy beast, and a lot of people think that striking it out on your own as a solopreneur is a viable option. Sometimes it is, but most often it's not because they're unicorns, the people that can exhibit all these skills and be in the right environment at the right time. Um, so with your current company, where are you now, and what is the next step for you and your organization?
Yeah, so we bootstrap the business. We put a lot of our own capital in, and really for us, it was making sure that we knew exactly what our customers wanted before taking external capital. And then we got early angel investor checks from early investors at OpenAI, Palantir, a VC that focused on supply chain and where it's going and so on. So we are at the stage where we really listen to the market, and now we're getting the commercial pull. So we are not doing any marketing because we're just focused on our customers, and they're pulling us. We have more demand than we can handle, which is a great place to be. And we're just focused on building a solid business with revenue, and that we're on the right track to do that. I do not want to build a consulting firm. We empower consultants. I do not want to build something that is not scalable. So we're building a B2B SaaS platform. So it's very much repeatable for many customers. We're templatizing reporting. And I do not want to be doing this for 1 year, raise a lot of cash and disappear. That's also not what I'm interested in. We're building a solid business so that we know that businesses are going to have to report for a very long time. So we're providing the tools so not just Western companies can report in a much more efficient manner, but so that someone in Bangladesh, Brazil, India, they're the people producing our food, creating palm oil. They are selling oil. They're the people who need to report to buyers. They're the people who also need to report to regulators now. So we're making our platform so easy for users in the developing world at the very bottom, the people that we don't realize are the people who are driving our global economy. They're the people who are producing all our goods. They're the people who need to also be responsible when they're building plants, palm oil plants. They need to make sure that the oil is reused, because in Europe soon there's legislation where all the aviation fuel has to be biofuel. Again, everything's interconnected. Alternative aviation fuel will be the future, but now every company that produces palm oil and other sources of oil in the emerging economy is going to have to communicate that they are recycling the oil. So we want to make it so easy for them to communicate that they are, which is in the communication and form of reporting, that they are recycling, so they can win more business, so we can all transition to a much more sustainable planet.
It's so easy to get to be blissfully ignorant at all the thought and effort that goes into pulling together society and preventing it from imploding or exploding or just spiraling into chaos. I mean, you're talking about agriculture. We need to eat. You're talking about fuel. We need to drive our cars and move between work and deliver food from one place to the other. We have to be accountable for the consumption of the resources because the earth is limited. We have cycles to create food. We have cycles to mine and refine and distribute and sell oil and gas. People need to stay warm during the winter. People need to cook their meals. People need to travel between different places in the world. Um, I really appreciate that you're taking a very global perspective early on, and you're focused on the bottleneck. It's not the consulting. There's lots of talent that already has their hands in delivering ESG reporting solutions as a manual service. They can benefit from this, and it's not the matter of adhering to a specific ESG reporting in one market. I mean, you want to create a configurable platform that can support all these different folk, that can support the people that are growing the plants that feed the people, that are drilling the oil, that are mining the natural resources, aluminum or any kind of natural resource that goes into our everyday products. Where would we be without aluminum? Where would we be without lithium? Where would we be without all these resources that we take for granted? Everything has a battery. Everything has some rare earth metal. And everything is part of a very complex supply chain. So it it's just interesting that you went from sustainability to, in order to enable sustainability, we need to make sustainability transparent. Reporting, regulatory compliance makes sustainability efforts transparent, and being able to feed that, you're impacting and augmenting the efforts of all these independent players. Um,
I think helping people get rid of bureaucracy will be a massive will give back humans so much more time to actually do the things we're amazing at, which is problem solve. We're creative, humans are so good at solving problems. We just need time to do it. We need clarity of thought. And by automating tasks that are simply not adding, it is so important to audit, so important to report, because we don't know how there's been transition, how you need to mark the transition. But we need to make it more efficient so we can get back to problem solving.
yeah, no, that's true. And governments want to be holding people and themselves accountable. Everybody wants to measure progress so that we can figure out how to allocate our money and our labor and government projects. This should really help out to make adoption possible. Even just implementing a report, like, oh, we're going to implement a report. Okay, you need people that understand the implications of the report, how to fill it out, how to adhere to it. People, as you said, need to go and fill it out manually, and not everybody has full context and the legal and tax implications of whatever new code has been established out of the blue. Um, it's a very valuable service. So, what is in your roadmap in terms of enabling that scalability of the platform? You said you have templates.
Yeah, so what we're doing right at this moment is we're making sure the templates work for existing global brands, and we know global brands want to automate this. So we're helping them automate what they're already doing. As soon as we've done it for a few well-known brands, we will absolutely be communicating this more publicly, because if it has worked for them, it will definitely work for many, many, many other companies. And that's really our laser focus. It's getting it right, automating the report end to end with trusted global brands, because it is so important that it works for the trusted brands, because the psychology of humans is that if it works for that trusted brand, it will work for others. And we're very much focused on delivering at this stage.
Yeah, no, you have a networks effect. I mean, all the brands that are recognizable lend to having other recognizable brands say, "Oh, okay, they said you're good. We'll give it a shot." And then it all trickles down from there. A lot of other people, they start doing sales with startups or individuals and people that are resource constrained, time constrained, and have knowledge and experience constraints. So you focusing your efforts on building products for the people that have the bigger pockets and have the bigger needs, and you'll have measurable impact in their operations and labor efforts. That makes perfect sense. Do you have any thoughts on people that begin with smaller markets or lower level markets that um, that they don't even know where to begin in their sales or go to market strategy?
Yes, go-to-market is so, so important. You have to really understand what sort of pain your customer is. Are you building a platform is that a migraine, does it eradicate the migraine? So painkiller, or is it a vitamin? It makes you feel good. You have to really know what you're doing, why, because your communications will come out of that. Because even when you're building a platform, you have to communicate the value. For any platform, you have to really understand your user, do a lot of research on why the user is in pain or what could make their experience a lot better. I would highly, highly focus on making sure it is a research-led platform, and every segment is very different. Your customer base for one platform is going to be different to another platform. This is why it's so important that entrepreneurs are working on different problems, because we're all solving a bit of the wider problem. We don't do carbon accounting, we don't do data collection on a lot of different, we have amazing platforms out there called Persephone and Watershed that do all the carbon accounting. We just want to be the last mile that automates those reports. So it's really important to know where you sit in the value chain. We don't want to be a consulting firm. So we work with consulting firms to automate their work so they can have more work and have really more time to do the very technical, analytical work. So understand where you sit in the value chain. And then finally, from a customer segmentation perspective, it is so important that you've got something that is user-friendly for that audience. Our platform is not for a, a young Gen Z who would prefer to be on TikTok. We're focused on a very different audience. We're focused on an audience that has to report. Has to. They already do it. Their organizations pay them to report. They have to do it for their job. They're not. So you really understanding your audience and making it useful for them. Our audience are also not, they don't know a lot about AI. We spend a lot of time communicating how to use generative AI and how it works very early on to our customers. So it's really important to know and be really aware that not a lot of people realize that AI has transitioned so far, so much, even the last 2 years. But AI has been around for a very long time. It's important to realize that the majority of people aren't following every technical update with generative AI, where it is, how it works. So it is our job to communicate that, make sure we communicate the security of it and the functionality of tools, what it does, what it doesn't do.
Yeah, there's 2 points that you really stuck out with me earlier on in the conversation. Financing. So you said you're bootstrapped, and that's really important. I mean, it was good to have the initial cash injection to give you a base and kind of take away um, immediate need to survive and make short-term decisions. But you had whatever initial cash injection, but you were really focused on being sustainable and not expending your resources, increasing your customer roster, providing value early and often so that they keep you, validate you, and vouch for you. Can you give us some thoughts on why you chose that route? What are some common pitfalls, and why you'll consider different options in the future according to how the product develops?
Getting the best deals, the hype, being part of the hype, investing in the coolest young founder. And unfortunately, a lot of founders look exactly a lot of founders in AI are male. And that is the truth. It's a lot of founders in technology, let alone AI, are male. And venture capitalists happen to be majority male. So they back these founders. What I vow to do from a very early stage of building this company with our team is to build a revenue generating, scalable business that has value for people globally. So that is so important. So we follow 3 principles. It has to be global, there has to be a lot of data, and we have to be scalable. And it was important to put my co-founder Daniel and I have put in so much of our own capital because we have stake in this. We put our own savings, and so we're frugal. When we make decisions, every decision, it is one that's based on, we're not overspending because we're spending someone's capital. And then, by the way, crashing. A lot of AI companies that have even been developed in the last 2 years have crashed very early on. If you're not, if you're trying to compete with an LLM or an image generation, part of the LLM, not going to, succeed. So some founders have already, some companies have already gotten a lot of capital and failed. For us, it is so critical that we are serving our customers, we are profitable, and we're on the right track. And it is actually very rare in the AI industry to be thinking like that. But that's because we approached it from the perspective of we're building a long-term sustainable business. We're not here to, this is our philosophy. We're here for the long run.
And the marketing is something that is a abstract idea. Everybody says you have to market. You have to market, otherwise people won't find you. But what people don't realize is that there's a spectrum of strategies around marketing, and that deliberately not marketing is a sound strategy if you have a clear focus on what it is that your priorities are. So, can you talk a little bit about marketing, why you chose not to market, and where you're placing that energy? Because even marketing has operations, considerations, spend, energy, attention. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts around that. You're on mute. You're on mute. There
Oh,
you go.
no? Am I muted?
No, now you're good. Now you're
Okay,
good.
I was saying because I'm Mongolian, I'm from the mountains in Mongolia, my hair has a life of its own. It literally just is wild. So, yeah, I normally actually on stage, I'm always putting my hair up because of that, just so you know. Yeah, so from a marketing perspective, my first job in data analytics, it was a data-driven marketing company. It was one of the cutting-edge companies, very well known globally, and and I used to work with global enterprises leveraging their data to market to specific audiences. What do you learn when you work so closely in the marketing space? And my last company, I was chief marketing officer, chief growth officer. They're pretty much the same. What is so important is you have to get the proof points. You have to have customers. You have to be delivering for your customers. You have to show value before you scale. You have to make sure it's working. That's the right time to really push your messaging. And yeah, and to be, I'm so used to being, I think it's part of being, a girl from Mongolia. I'm so used to people not paying attention till they have to pay attention, because regulations coming to every business. I think it's so important to have substance before even talking about it. And when you're a Mongolian girl growing up in the UK, you realize that in the UK, you don't talk until you have something very valuable to say. It's not a showy-offy country. It is a culture of substance. And in Asia, by the way, we just don't talk. We just deliver. That's the cultural differences. Americans are born to sell. It's amazing. It's just literally American. They seem to walk out of their nappies and start selling. And that I'm very much always in the US and I love it. But I have a bit of a mix of all these things where, Mongolian only focus, Asia, you don't say anything, you just execute because you don't want to lose face. In Britain, it's very much about delivering, getting things done. You don't say a lot. You certainly do not say it until you have substance. And then, of course, in America, everyone can sell. So you have to figure out what's real or what's not. And I think it's really important to know to understand when to be in the mode to tell everyone and when to just share your story. I would say at the moment, just sharing why I've been doing this since I was 18, but definitely not in the, overselling. And I actually don't think overselling is a good strategy. You have to have something solid. And I've seen entrepreneurs fail flat on their face because they've oversold. You have, when you're wiser for learning from others and not making the same mistake.
I appreciate that. Yeah, there's that notion that everybody wants to get the first mover's advantage, but there's always going to be first movers. There's always going to be innovators and trailblazers. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be built to last, or that all the promises that they make will stick. And it's important to experiment and learn by doing, and you know break things. But as you're saying, you lose face and you'll impact negatively the adoption of these ideas or technology, because people start to get sour when they hear the same words that bit bit them in the butt. And everybody sort of rides on these cycles of hope and fear, globally in the market and in their lives. So it's very important to take that responsibility of hope and at early adoption to be a very serious form of trust. Um,
Yeah, and by the way, the greatest thing about the American tech ecosystem is that you can fail as long as you
oh
get
yeah.
up and you problem solve and you fix it. For example, I've been on the same mission, sustainability since I was 18, to really get to a very focused product where it's solving the automated reporting piece has taken a long time, and actually you have to experiment. And that's the best thing about entrepreneurship. That entrepreneurs they have a problem they want to solve and they stick to it. And they are authentic about why they're trying to fix it. In my case, Mongolia was the most polluted, our capital city was the most polluted place on the planet when I was a student. And I thought, this is so crazy. We have all these resources, yet children are dying of pneumonia and women are becoming infertile just because we want to sell minerals and because we want cheap energy, which is from coal. And it has motivated me ever since, because I realized that's happening in Mongolia, but it's also happening around the world. We are motivated to have cheap resources, but actually, if it's damaging our people, what is the point? Oh, cute cat. What is the point? And this is why regulation is so important. Regulation is now, the G7 is phasing out coal by the end of the decade. Phasing out coal. But remember, there's so many countries outside of the G7, India, China, etc. These countries are now making sure the methane coming out of coal can be used for energy. So there's so much innovation, and I'm not doing that, but I'm following it from a regulatory perspective, and I'm helping. We as a business are helping automate the report writing so that companies can communicate they are helping eradicate the methane from coal plants. That's what's so exciting about what we're doing. I didn't know, who knew reporting could be so interesting and automating it.
Yeah, sometimes I think about the stories that accountants who seemingly live very black and white lives have, because the numbers don't lie. The numbers tell you what happened, who did it, when did they do it, why did they do it, and how much did it cost. Everything is traced through financial figures. You can't lie to that. And if you try, there's auditing firms, and there's government mechanisms to see what kind of fraudulent activity takes place.
Totally.
Um,
And that's
yeah, no,
that's that's what reporting is. In the non-financial reporting, we focus on a lot on non-financial reporting, which is sustainability. It's what you're doing besides your accountants are already taking care of the numbers, but there are so many other things. How you treat your people. Are you using slave labor? There's a lot of regulation coming out in the US to make sure that Shein is not flooding the market with products for young people created by a child or someone who has been really is being underpaid. It's also environmental, so to make sure that we're not buying products that actually are damaging our waterways, which therefore damage us. So 3M is a company has been polluting, is forever plastics company, been polluting waterways. Just that we have non-sticky frying pans, but the non-sticky frying pans and the water bottles are also damaging our health and our environment, because as soon as it goes into a lake, it kills wildlife. So not only are we killing ourselves, we're killing wildlife that we are trying to eat. And then from a governance perspective, just again, just doing faster due diligence. Like FTX, if investors knew that he didn't even have a board, the FTX, that the company that crashed, the crypto company, if investors quickly do due diligence using generative AI to see if SPF had a board, then maybe they would have recommended a board to him. These are the non-financial pieces that is what makes a sustainable business.
yeah. Well, I think one of the most sneaky words on the table in this conversation has been sustainability, because you're right. There are so many different dimensions where it impacts humans, the environment, and the actions that we take between those two those two buckets, um, through all the natural resources that we can think of. So kudos to you, T. You're doing great work, and um, you are championing sustainability. And when you're rolling in the cash pit, then you can go and purchase your own plane and have your own landing strip, and whatever, or you buy a flight simulator if it's more economically friendly, or more sustainable.
The plane I
Um,
used to fly when I was younger was a glider. So it's a
okay.
non-engine aircraft, just so you know. I know I am certainly for, I'm actually very pro, because I love the aviation industry. I'm so fascinated by all the regulation and sustainable fuel. And I think we need to be realistic. We just need a better alternative fuels. And we're getting there. We're really getting there.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you sponsor me, I will get a pilot's license and fly across from New Jersey to London in the first corn-based fuel plane. But we'll have a chat about that later. Uh, do you have any last words of advice for any budding entrepreneurs and women that are early in their career, or just anybody that, you know, imagine you were going to give yourself advice when you were starting out? What would you say to yourself? And you're on mute one more time.
out there. Yeah, my message to everyone out there is I've had some amazing mentors, female mentors in my life. And for me, the key takeaway from Anne Benham, who is just so graceful and so powerful, and is that you can be graceful and you can be an entrepreneur, you can have a family, you can do it all. Just do not remember that we are living in such an era where there's so much fragmentation, so much war, so much conflict, and we as feminine leaders in society, we need to step up. We need to create collaborative tools. We need to provide the solutions, because we are the people who are creating life. We create life. You know, women in AI, the majority of us will become mothers one day. We are creating humans, and we are responsible to build the right home for our children.
I love that. Thanks, Mom. Anyways, it's been lovely chatting with you, T, and yeah, I hope and look forward to the next opportunity that I get to talk to you again. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and I hope you got a lot of value out of this one. I certainly did.
So much, like you. Have a great day. Bye.